Hello, dear friends. I hope you're doing great. I'm Behrouz Bigham, here with the third session of the comprehensive Corona rendering package. In this session, we will continue exploring Corona render settings, focusing on the Scene tab. The first option we work with is Show VFB, which stands for Frame Buffer. 1. What is a frame buffer? The frame buffer is the main platform for displaying renders, showing the final image output. It is far more advanced and professional than 3ds Max's default. After taking a basic render, we can stop the process and save it to a desired location. Steps. Click on the Save button. Create a new folder to store the render. Specify a file name and select a format, JPEG, or any other preferred format. Save the file. 1. Advanced saving options. Save all right arrow saves all channels of the render. Save single layer right arrow saves only a specific layer. 2. Post-processing option in frame buffer. A key feature in Corona Frame Buffer is the post option, which must be enabled to apply advanced post-production settings within the frame buffer. If new settings are applied, this option should be selected to ensure proper saving. 3. Region rendering option. If you need to render only a specific part of the scene, you can select the area and render just that section separately. Render settings, pixel processing and denoising in Corona. In the region rendering section, if you don't need this feature, you can disable it by clicking the close button. Another common setting is zoom, which allows users to enlarge the image using the scroll mouse. 1. What is rendering? Rendering is a computational process that transforms a 3D scene into a 2D image or a photo. In other words, it is the result of interaction between light and models in a fully realistic process, which we call rendering. 2. Rendering time and hardware performance. Rendering requires processing time, and this time varies depending on hardware capabilities. When rendering starts, the system processes pixels, and gradually the number of passes increases. With more passes, the image resolution improves, and noise is reduced. 3. Role of denoising in reducing render noise. If denoising is enabled, the image will process faster and noise will decrease. For example, if denoising is turned off, noise will be visible. As passes increase, more pixels are added, reducing noise. Higher pixel count results in better resolution. Police car light. Important note: when stopping a render, do not use cancel as it will disable denoising and might produce incomplete results. Post-production and tone mapping settings in Corona Renderer. In the Corona Frame Buffer, one of the key sections is the post option and tone mapping. This section includes light adjustments, color corrections, and image editing, which can be directly applied within Corona. Post-production and tone mapping settings in Corona Renderer. In the Corona Frame Buffer, one of the key sections is the post option and tone mapping. This section includes light adjustments, color corrections, and image editing, which can be directly applied within Corona. Alternatively, users can save the raw render without making any modifications, and edit it later in software like Photoshop, Luminar, or other post-production tools. Post-production is used to refine renders and remove imperfections. 1. EV Exposure Scene Light Intensity Adjustment. EV exposure controls the intensity of light entering from the lens and directly affects the brightness or overexposure of the image. Increasing EV values right arrow results in a brighter image. Decreasing EV values right arrow darkens the scene. Police car light. Important note: even slight adjustments in EV exposure can significantly impact the final render quality. In snowy or cloudy environments, EV exposure should be reduced to maintain a natural lighting balance in the S. Light compression, white balance and contrast adjustments in Corona. 1. Light compression and managing scene brightness. Light compression is a key setting for managing light intensity in renders. Increasing light compression right arrow boosts light intensity, making overexposed areas more pronounced. Decreasing light compression right arrow only affects bright areas, preventing excessive burned-out highlights. Important note, light compression should be adjusted logically. 1.5 units is often a standard setting for many renders. For snowy or cloudy scenes, reducing EV exposure and light compression helps maintain natural lighting conditions. 2. White balance and controlling render color temperature. White balance plays a crucial role in adjusting render temperature. Increasing white balance right arrow warms the scene, introducing yellow and orange tones. Decreasing white balance right arrow cools the scene, reinforcing blue and white shades. Important note: in winter or snowy environments, lower white balance to achieve a colder feel in the image. 4500 is a balanced setting, offering a good mix of warm and cool tones. 4. Vignette settings and simulating old cameras. Vignette is an image effect that darkens the edges of a render. Higher vignette right arrow creates a vintage photography or analog film feel. Lower vignette right arrow keeps bright edges and a modern aesthetic. Important note: vignette enhances realism in some renders, but excessive use can be distracting. A low amount of vignette can also be adjusted in post-production or Photoshop. Contrast, saturation, vignette and color tint adjustments in Corona. 1. Contrast settings and its role in scene realism. Contrast is one of the most important image adjustments, increasing the difference between shadows and highlights. Higher contrast right arrow boosts scene realism, enhances dark pixels and strengthens shadows. Lower contrast right arrow makes details less prominent and the image appear dull. Police car light. Important note: too much contrast results in burnt-out highlights and a cartoonish effect. A standard is 2. Saturation and color intensity in render. Saturation controls the amount of color in the image. Lower saturation right arrow converts the image to black and white. Higher saturation right arrow injects stronger and richer colors into the scene. Police car light. Important note: some artistic renders require high saturation, but architectural renders benefit from a balanced approach. Color curve, LUT filters and light control in Corona. 1. Using Kelvin temperature instead of manual color adjustments. If you don't have a specific color preference, it is better to use standard Kelvin temperature settings in Corona lighting, as it is more realistic and naturally blended within the scene. Kelvin settings provide a more lifelike lighting feel without requiring manual color adjustments. 2. Color curve for light, contrast, and highlights. Corona includes a color adjustment curve, which optimizes exposure, highlights, and contrast. Increasing the upper section of the curve right arrow brightens the scene areas. Increasing the lower section of the curve right arrow enhances contrast in dark regions. Important note: for finer adjustments, you can right-click on the curve to reset the values. 3. Using LUT color filters for color enhancement. LUT, lookup table, is a set of predefined color filters that apply specific visual effects to the render. Choosing an appropriate LUT right arrow, each LUT creates a unique color tone. Some LUTs may not be suitable for snowy scenes, but reducing their intensity can help achieve the desired effect. Important note: LUTs are a great option for beginners who want a final color adjustment without using Photoshop. Using LUTs, bloom, glare and sharpness in Corona Renderer. 1. Downloading and applying LUTs. LUT, lookup table, is a collection of predefined color filters that can add unique tones to a render. To download more LUTs, search online for free or professional pro LUTs. Premium LUTs are available for purchase and can provide exceptional color effects. LUTs are a great option for users who are not experienced with Photoshop, as they easily enhance color settings. 2. Adjusting bloom and lighting effects. Bloom is a visual effect that softens and enhances the glow around light sources. When Corona lights are exposed directly to the camera lens, bloom creates a glowing halo around them. Increasing bloom right arrow creates a more realistic lighting effect in both interior and exterior renders. Bloom is a stylistic effect and should be adjusted based on scene requirements. 4. Adjusting sharpness for enhanced image details. Sharpness controls image clarity and detailed visibility. Increasing sharpness right arrow improves clarity and sharpness. Excessive sharpening may introduce noise. Sharpness should be balanced to avoid unwanted noise. Denoising, render information and history management in Corona. 1. Denoising and noise reduction in renders. Denoising is an option to reduce fine noise in a render. If denoising is disabled, the render will be full of noise. Activating denoising removes noise, producing a cleaner image. Denoising automatically minimizes fine noise. If the noise level exceeds 10%, it's best to increase the number of passes. 2. Render statistics and processing time. In Corona's statistics section, users can check the current render details, render start time, remaining time until completion, number of processed passes, noise level, percentage of noise in the scene. More passes lead to higher render quality. 3. Using history and saving test render settings. The history section in Corona Frame Buffer allows users to store a render and compare settings later, review changes and achieve better results. After making adjustments, history can help evaluate the differences between settings. Comparing renders and role of interactive rendering in Corona. 1. Saving and comparing renders in the history section. In Corona Frame Buffer, users can store multiple renders and compare them. Click on the first render. Render a right arrow selects the first image. Right-click on the second render or render B. Right arrow select the second image. Comparing renders is highly useful in material testing, especially for adjusting lighting, materials, and scene settings. If a 2. Interactive rendering and quick adjustment testing. Interactive rendering is one of Corona's most essential features, allowing real-time scene testing. This function instantly applies and displays changes. It is extremely useful for checking lighting, materials, modeling, and other settings. Police car light. Important note. Previously, users needed to render a new image for every change, but interactive rendering eliminates this requirement. Key aspects of using interactive rendering in Corona. 1. Making instant adjustments and viewing results immediately. A major advantage of interactive rendering is the ability to apply changes in real time and see the results instantly. For example, moving light sources and observing instant changes, adjusting materials and checking their impact on the scene. With this capability, Users do not need to stop rendering and restart. 2. Requirements for running interactive rendering efficiently. To ensure optimal performance in interactive rendering, several factors must be considered. Powerful hardware. Corona renderer is CPU-based, meaning its speed depends on the processor's performance. If the system is weak, running interactive rendering will be difficult. Lightweight scene. For faster interactive rendering, it's best to simplify the scene. Enable the override material option to turn all materials white. Careful add. 3. Difference between interactive rendering and GPU-based engines. Some rendering engines, such as Lumion or Vantage, operate based on the GPU, making their processing speeds significantly higher. However, Corona renderer is entirely CPU-based, meaning it offers more realistic results, but with slower instant processing compared to GPU-based engines. 4. Light mix and open material library. Light mix is a key feature in lighting adjustments, which will be discussed in future sessions. Open Material Library provides a collection of ready-to-use materials for artists and designers. Some materials, such as chocolate, honey, and food-related textures, may not be necessary for certain projects. Assigning materials to objects and reviewing available material libraries in Corona. 1. Assigning materials to car body and objects. To apply a specific material to an object, follow these steps. Select the target object. Enable All to view all materials. Right-click on the desired material and choose Assign to Selection. After completing these steps, the material will be applied to the object surface and visible in the preview. 2. Exploring available material types. Carpet and rugs right arrow contains basic and specialized carpet textures. Ceramic and stone right arrow, some of these materials are not high quality and are mainly for quick testing. Concrete right arrow available in dry, wet, and rough variants. Fabric and curtains right arrow, some fabric materials are useful for simulating light passing curtains in interior renders. Parquet and wood right arrow, specialized flooring and wooden materials are available. Free, specialized, and essential materials. Mirror and glass right arrow includes tinted glass, green glass, frosted glass, and different mirrors. Liquids right arrow water is the most frequently used material for fluid simulations. Rough stone and displacement materials right arrow contains extremely coarse and realistic rock textures. Metal and glass right arrow, widely used materials in various rendering projects. Fingerprint effect materials right arrow surfaces featuring realistic smudges and fingerprint details. Key points about materials and smart selection in Corona. 1. Adding dirt and imperfections for realism. Sometimes adding slight dirt or imperfections to materials enhances scene realism. For instance, in dash materials, slight dirt tricks the viewer into thinking the image is a real photo rather than a digital render. 2. Reviewing natural materials and their applications. Metals right arrow, extensive metal libraries with high-quality materials available. Tree leaves and grass right arrow, these materials work well in distant scenes, but may not be ideal for close-up renders. Soil and dirt right arrow, some soil materials have lower quality, so careful selection is necessary. Plastic and UPVC right arrow available in different colors, perfect for cabinets and industrial surfaces. Wall materials, render settings, reset and processing in Corona. 1. Choosing wall materials and adding realism. If you want to replace plain white walls with textured materials, consider using materials with natural dirt and imperfections. Materials with slight scratches or uneven textures create a more realistic look. Every material must be tested first, as final results depend on light. 2. Resetting render settings in Corona. In some engines like V-Ray, resetting render settings requires changing the render engine before reverting to default settings. However, Corona Renderer eliminates this extra step. Click on Reset Settings. All adjustments will revert to their default values. This feature is especially useful when renders appear completely black or contain unexpected issues. 3. Progressive rendering versus traditional bucket rendering. In V-Ray and classic rendering engines, bucket rendering is used. The image is processed in small blocks. Each section is rendered until noise is fully removed. In Corona Renderer, only progressive rendering is used. This method continuously processes the entire image without segmentation. If noise settings are undefined, the rendering process may continue for several hours or even days. 4. Managing pass count and auto-stop rendering. Corona will continue processing until the noise level reaches a predefined limit. Users can adjust pass count to restrict rendering time. If the scene is too complex or noise settings are not configured, rendering may continue indefinitely. Methods for stopping renders in Corona. 1. Traditional manual method. In this approach, users visually inspect the render to check if it reaches the desired quality. Once the render reaches an acceptable level, it can be stored. This method requires manual supervision and is best for precise renders. 2. Setting pass count for auto-stop. One of Corona's rendering control methods is defining the number of passes. Users determine the optimal pass count based on their system's performance and desired quality. If experience suggests that 100 passes eliminate noise, one can set it at 50, 100, or 150. Once the pass count reaches the preset limit, rendering stops automatically. 3. Setting a time limit. This method specifies a fixed duration for rendering. If the CPU is powerful and experience suggests the scene renders noise-free in 2 hours, the limit can be set accordingly. Once the time duration expires, rendering automatically stops. This method is useful for managing long projects and preventing excessive rendering. 4. Checking noise level and stopping at a defined threshold. Corona Renderer allows users to view the noise level numerically. An acceptable noise level is defined based on project requirements. Once noise reaches the preset threshold, rendering is stopped. This method is ideal for projects that require precise noise control. Managing noise in Corona renders and reviewing CXSR format. 1. Reducing noise and its impact on render time. In Corona Renderer, noise level directly affects rendering duration. If the initial noise level is 13%, processing time is shorter, but the quality is suboptimal. Reducing noise to 4% increases render time, but enhances image clarity. At 2% noise, the image is acceptable, but processing extends to 41 minutes. If the noise is set to 3% with an 18-minute processing limit. 2. Understanding CXSR Corona's proprietary file format. Corona CXSR is a special file format that allows users to save and resume rendering from the exact point of stop. With GI enabled, scenes appear more realistic with accurate lighting calculations. If a render stops at pass 2, it can be saved as CXSR for later continuation. Using this feature, users can present an initial render to clients for approval and continue rendering if necessary. Files can be transferred to different systems for continued processing. This capability is one of Corona Renderer's strengths, making it highly efficient for large and time-intensive projects. Reviewing 32-bit files and their impact on lighting and render testing. 1. Using 32-bit files for advanced lighting adjustments. 32-bit files have a high dynamic range and contain a massive amount of pixel data. HDR high dynamic range images are the most common type of 32-bit files. Lighting setups in many rendering projects rely on HDR images. In Corona Frame Buffer, CXSR files support 32-bit mode, allowing greater control over post-processing and precise lighting adjustments. 2. Speeding up material and light testing with Corona Physical Diffuse. A fast way to test material and lighting is using Corona Physical Diffuse with a white color. This method significantly speeds up light evaluations. Reflection and glossiness calculations are ignored, displaying only diffuse color. Physical cameras can be utilized within the viewport for better lighting control. 3. Adjusting day and night lighting configurations. To set up daylight rendering, sunlight can be adjusted interactively. Activating IPR, interactive photorealistic rendering, allows real-time light adjustments. Lighting configurations can be mixed with MTL settings, which are not exclusive to Corona and can be used across different materials. 4. Managing scene complexity and optimizing render speed. When material complexity and calculation loads increase, the scene becomes heavier. To optimize performance, similar objects can be grouped and simplified. Using Select Similar speeds up processing. Optimization tools can significantly enhance render speed. Layering objects and excluding settings in Corona. 1. Optimizing scene performance with object grouping. By layering objects, users can manage scenes efficiently and improve processing speed. Objects can be assigned to specific layers and hidden when necessary. Select Similar speeds up the selection of identical objects. After transferring objects to separate layers, the scene becomes lighter and more manageable. 2. Excluding specific objects and using advanced settings. Corona offers preset options for material and lighting adjustments. Displacement can be removed from selected objects for optimized rendering. Light sources can be separated from material calculations to improve efficiency. Key materials like glass should always be treated as individual elements. If focusing on a single object like a ceiling, the object's name is added to the Exclude section. Using IPR for real-time changes. IPR, interactive photorealistic rendering, displays material and lighting adjustments instantly. To activate IPR, select Start Interactive Rendering from the Corona toolbar. When modifying colors or materials, the render updates in real time. This feature is highly useful for quick testing of lighting and materials. Understanding denoiser in Corona and its impact on image quality. 1. Role of denoiser in reducing noise. Denoiser is one of Corona's core rendering features, eliminating noise to enhance image clarity. It removes minor distortions and improves overall render sharpness. This option is also integrated into leading rendering engines such as V-Ray. With denoiser enabled, final renders appear clean and high quality. Exploring denoiser options in Corona and best usage practices. 1. Types of denoiser and their applications. Today, all modern rendering engines include denoiser tools to remove scene noise. In Corona Renderer, there are multiple denoiser types, each with unique properties. NVIDIA GPU denoiser right arrow optimized for NVIDIA graphics cards and quick render testing. Intel CPU denoiser right arrow designed for Intel-based processors. Corona High Quality Denoiser right arrow best option for final renders with maximum clarity. 2. Adjusting image filter settings for optimal denoising. To ensure denoiser works correctly in Corona, proper image filter settings are required. If denoiser is activated, set image filter to 10. If noise reduction relies on pass count, set it to high quality. For final renders using Corona High Quality Denoiser ensures maximum sharpness. 3. Noise processing and managing image quality. Corona renderer processes noise incrementally. Initially, minor noise reductions occur. After rendering stops, the denoiser operates to remove residual noise. In the final stage, the engine evaluates hardware performance and noise levels to deliver optimal results. 4. Controlling denoiser in render tests and close-up scenes. Excessive denoiser usage can reduce essential texture details. In close-up tests, reducing denoiser intensity prevents loss of bump and displacement textures. For final renders, setting Corona High Quality Denoiser at the correct level ensures superior results. Okay, we have reached the end of this session, and we covered all the important points. Be sure to practice and repeat these features so that you are prepared for the next session. I am Behrouz Bigham from the Architecture and Graphics Simulation Studio. Have a good day.